Good morning. If we can please ask everyone to come into the room and sit down. Good, thank you. So this is a very special Eminent Speakers Forum. It will be about safeguarding Asia's food and water resilience. It's part of the Food System Transformation Forum. And I would like to invite now our Vice President for Sectors and Themes, Fatima Yasmin, to introduce our very special eminent guest today.
Thank you, Suzanne. His Excellency Prime Minister Tobgay, His Excellency Prime Minister Tobgay, distinguished delegates, colleagues, and friends, a very good morning to all. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all to today's Eminent Speakers Forum. The ESF Forum serves as ADB's premier platform for engaging global thought leaders on critical development challenges facing Asia and the Pacific. Today, we are honored to have amongst us an extraordinary leader whose voice carries I repeat, today we are honored to have amongst us an extraordinary leader whose voice carries moral clarity, global credibility, and profound relevance to the climate challenges facing Asia and the Pacific. It is my privilege to introduce His Excellency Dasho Shering Tobgay, the Prime Minister of Bhutan. Prime Minister Tobgay brings an extraordinary blend of statesmanship, humility, and transformative thinking. As some of you may know, he played a pivotal role in Bhutan's transition to parliamentary democracy. Following a distinguished career in the civil service, he founded the People's Democratic Party, served as Bhutan's first opposition leader from 2008 to 2012, and later became Prime Minister from 2013 to 2018. His return to office 6 years later in 2024 reflects the trust and confidence of the Bhutanese people in his leadership, vision, and integrity. Internationally, Prime Minister Tobgay is recognized as one of the most compelling voices on sustainable development, climate justice, and human well-being. During his first tenure as Prime Minister, Bhutan received the Champions of the Earth Award, the highest environmental award of the United Nations Environmental Programme. His articulation of Bhutan's development philosophy, grounded in gross national happiness, and showed the world that progress can be both modern and deeply human, balancing economic opportunity with environmental stewardship, cultural continuity, and social equity. Under his leadership, Bhutan has reinforced the commitment to remain carbon negative, protect its forests and watersheds, strengthen climate resilience, and support inclusive rural prosperity. His advocacy on Himalayan water towers, glacier retreat, and the existential vulnerabilities of small mountain nations has resonated across global platforms, from his widely acclaimed TED Talk to forums shaping climate policy and finance. As ADB embarks on its $40 billion food systems transformation agenda, Bhutan's experience offers insight that are not only inspirational but also operational, as exemplified by its constitutional mandate of a minimum 60% forest cover, which is contributed to its climate resilient development model and a carbon negative status. Today's dialogue is an opportunity to learn from a nation that has safeguarded its natural capital while nurturing a resilient, values-driven society. Please join me in welcoming Prime Minister of Bhutan, His Excellency Dasho Shering Tobgwe.
Thank you, Fatima. Only a very small percentage of what you said about me is correct. Indeed, we have succeeded, and succeeded immeasurably, and that is because of the enlightened leadership of His Majesty the King. We have the good fortune of serving under the leadership of our enlightened kings, and we have succeeded, particularly in the areas of climate action and sustainability and conservation. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, safeguarding Asia's food and water resilience. I want you to think of an image. In Bhutan, high in the Himalayas, we have glaciers, vast rivers of ice that have shaped our mountains for centuries. But today, these glaciers are melting. As they melt, they form lakes, growing, expanding bodies of water, often held back only by loose rock and ice. These dams are beautiful, but these natural dams are fragile. When these dams weaken or collapse, the lakes can burst without warning, releasing massive floods that gush down our valleys with devastating force. Entire villages can be swept away within hours, leaving in their wake grave loss of lives and livelihoods. And as temperatures rise, these lakes are growing faster and becoming more dangerous. But what happens in our mountains does not stay in Bhutan. That water flows across our borders into the farms, cities, and economies of Asia. A farmer in the plains may never see a glacier, but his harvest depends on it. That is why I say to you today, water security is food security. And food security begins not in our markets, but in our mountains. We often talk about food systems in terms of supply chains, markets, and infrastructure. But the truth is deeper. Food begins where water begins. In Asia, that means the Himalayas, the water towers of our continent. From these mountains flow rivers like the Brahmaputra, the Ganges, the Mekong, the Indus, and the Yangtze. These mighty rivers are the lifelines that sustain nearly 2 billion people. If these headwaters are unstable, everything downstream becomes uncertain. Crops fail, markets destabilize, and livelihoods erode. And when livelihoods erode, societies suffer. So this is not just an environmental issue. It is an economic issue. It is a security issue. It is a human security issue. In Bhutan, we live this reality every day. Yes, we are a small country, but we are a critical headwater nation. We monitor glacial lakes at risk of catastrophic floods. We invest in early warning systems to protect lives. We strengthen our vulnerable valleys. But let me be clear. This is not just about preventing disasters. This is about preserving something far more fundamental. It is about preserving predictability. When water becomes unpredictable, farming becomes a gamble. And when farming becomes a gamble, food systems begin to collapse. So we have learned a very simple truth. Resilience must be built from the mountains to the markets, not in silos, not sector by sector, and definitely not just in markets, but across entire landscapes. After all, glaciers feed rivers. Rivers sustain irrigation. Irrigation nourishes crops. Crops feed families, and families sustain communities and economies. Break one link in this chain, and the entire system weakens. That is why Bhutan has adopted an integrated landscape-based approach to development and environmental protection. And at the heart of this approach lies one fundamental priority: the protection of our forests. Because forests are not just scenery. They're beautiful, but they're not just scenery. They regulate water flows. They stabilize fragile mountain soils. They prevent floods. And they sustain agriculture. In other words, protecting forests means protecting the entire value chain. Today, over 70% of Bhutan remains under forest cover. Our constitution mandates that at least 60% of our land must be under forest cover for all time. We are a biodiversity hotspot and we are a carbon negative country, sequestering 5 times more carbon dioxide equivalent than we emit. This is not by accident, but by design. Because we know that if we weaken forests, we weaken agriculture. And if we weaken agriculture, we weaken food security. It is the same approach. It is the same understanding that shapes how we approach farming. In a country where farmers must navigate steep mountain terrain, our country is just nothing but steep mountains and deep valleys. Our farmers navigate them. They navigate erratic rainfall and changing climate conditions. Agriculture cannot be separated from the health of our ecosystems. So we are compelled to work with nature, not against it. And our track record in working with nature has been good. This is thanks to the support of many of our development partners. International financial institutions like the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank, multilateral agencies under the UN, many of the agencies under the UN, and not least of which, in fact, especially bilateral donor countries. First and foremost, the government of India, government of Japan, government of the EU. We are grateful to each and every one of them. Through community watershed management, people protect their water at their source. Through agroforestry, farmers grow crops and trees together, restoring soil while increasing income. Through climate-smart agriculture, we combine traditional knowledge with modern tools. And through renewable energy, of which we have plenty, we power irrigation and storage sustainably. All this has been possible because of your support and cooperation, and I thank you. The principle is simple. Adaptation is not about replacing nature. It is about aligning with nature. But these ideas alone are not enough. We must translate them into investment, because if we want resilience at scale, we must invest in it at scale. We must finance it at scale. That is why Bhutan has launched the Bhutan Agri-Sustain Fund. This is in partnership with the Food and Agricultural Organization, to whom I'm extremely grateful. So Bhutan has launched the Bhutan Agro-Sustain Fund, an $80 million platform to invest in climate-smart agriculture, natural capital, and rural prosperity. I invite representatives of the donor agencies here to take part in the Bhutan Agro-Sustain Fund. But let me put it simply. This is not aid. This is serious investment. Investment in the systems that feed Asia. Investment in Bhutan's natural capital, the 70% of forests that we talked about. When we speak of natural capital, we are not speaking of abstractions or a metaphor. Natural capital is real capital, and yet for too long we have not treated it as such. We have purposely kept it invisible, purposely ignored the importance of natural capital. The Bhutan Agri-Sustain Fund changes that. It invests not only in productivity, but in resilience. Not only in market, but in ecosystems. And not only in outputs, but in people. Because farmers are not just producers. They are the stewards of our future. And this brings me to a deeper point. Bhutan's development philosophy of gross national happiness. Our development philosophy teaches us something essential about balance. Development is not a race for output. It is a search for balance. This is why His Majesty the King, our fourth king, commanded as early as 1970s that for Bhutan, gross national happiness is more important than gross national product. It is a search for balance, a balance between people and nature, a balance between growth and sustainability, a balance between present needs and future generations. This balance is what makes society resilient. because resilience is not built by infrastructure alone. Resilience is built on trust, on community, and resilience requires stewardship. Ultimately, resilience depends on partnerships and collaborations across communities, across sectors, and across borders. Because no country can do this alone. Rivers do not stop at borders, and climate shocks do not recognize separate communities or individual countries. A glacial melt in one country can disrupt agriculture in another. A flood upstream can devastate communities downstream. And if the risks are shared, the responsibility must also be shared. This is where regional cooperation becomes critical. We must share data across river basins. We must coordinate upstream and downstream policies. We must invest together in natural infrastructure. And we must build financing pipelines that value nature. Bhutan stands ready to cooperate. Bhutan stands ready to partner, not just as a small country, but as a committed one. And if we succeed in this collaboration, if all of us partner and succeed in this collaboration and partnership, what should success look like? Success would mean moving beyond fragmented approaches towards managing agriculture, water, energy, and biodiversity as interconnected systems, not isolated sectors. Success would mean directing investments not only into roads and dams, but equally into forests, watersheds, and natural systems that sustain them. Success would mean ensuring that farmers have reliable access to water, stable and resilient livelihoods, and a meaningful voice in shaping the solutions that affect them. And success would mean recognizing mountain communities not as peripheral or remote, but as central to Asia's ecological security, food systems, and a shared future. Excellencies, my dear friends, let me leave you with a final thought. If we protect the headwaters, we protect the future of Asia. If we fail, no downstream system can compensate for our failure. No dam can replace a disappearing glacier. No market can function without water. The choice is simple, and the time is now. From glacier to farm, from mountain to delta, from nature to nourishment, from ridges to reefs. This is not a metaphor. It is an entire system. It is a responsibility. It is our shared future. So let us act together. Let us invest in nature as infrastructure. Let us empower farmers as our stewards for the future. And let us build resilience where it truly begins, in the mountains, in the glaciers. Because what we protect today will determine what we can feed tomorrow. Thank you for your kind attention. Tashigile.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister Dasho Tsering Togbe. This was very inspiring, talking about the future. So what we'll do now is we have a dialogue, and then we'll open for questions. So please use your app that you have where you can type in your questions. You may also ask questions in the room, and for the online audience, please drop them in the Zoom chat. It's a great honor to have you here as a leader. You have written a book recently, The Enlightened Leadership. I think it's for all of us to read. Maybe to start, What do you think, from your leader's perspective, should development banks stop doing and start doing to really support food system transformation?
Delighted to be here. Thank you very much. The term enlightened leadership is not about us and definitely not about me. It's about our kings. They have exercised enlightened leadership to keep Bhutan, to get Bhutan to where we are, and hence enlightened leadership. What should banks do? Obviously, you must invest in the vulnerable. It's unacceptable that today, when the world supposedly has so many resources, so much resources, finance, technological, wisdom, we still have so many people in abject poverty. Banks must get to the root of it and really invest in areas that will eradicate poverty. This theme is very important. The conference here is very important because agriculture is one of the quickest ways to alleviate poverty. Most of the smallest farmers are constrained. Lack of technology, lack of capital, lack of markets, lack of water, and they cannot grow out of poverty. And this is where banks can play a very important role. But like I mentioned in my address, this all begins with climate action. Melting glaciers, glacial lake outburst floods, unsustainable water, indiscriminate deforestation, they affect entire countries, but they affect the poorest first and foremost. And this is why I do believe that banks need to do more to make the mountain systems, the glaciers, a lot more stable and resilient. And for that, you need to invest in climate action.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So you're talking a lot about integrated approaches, right? Bringing nature, agriculture, poverty together. What do you think is required to really deliver these projects?
Leadership. You need leadership to really take full responsibility, to alleviate poverty and then to instill resilience and to ensure that to recognize the integrated nature of the entire system and then to invest in that system. Leadership is required, and leadership that is not going to bear immediate dividends. Most of us so-called leaders, we are interested in immediate returns. But leadership really that's going to invest in integrated systems for future prosperity. And this is why the youth are so important.
Thank you. So you speak about the importance of long-term leadership. What does it mean for development bank like ours? How can we support leaders better to think long-term?
Let me give you an example. Our king took us on a unique development path called gross national happiness. That is about balance. It balances economic growth, which is very important, balances economic growth with social progress, culture, community, culture, environmental conservation, sustainability, and good governance. This has served us well. As a result, we have free education, free healthcare. Every Bhutanese youth has been through the school system. Every Bhutanese child is in school, studying and in a global language. And today, we've reached a point where our youth can get jobs in most other countries. And they are leaving Bhutan because those jobs pay a lot more. And so, what does leadership look like? So His Majesty the King has acknowledged the problem and told the people that we've been so successful that we are victims of our own success. And now we need to address this problem. Otherwise, our small country, barely 800,000 people, the danger is too many of our people are going to leave the country. And so he has come up with his royal vision of establishing the Gelifu Mindfulness City. The Gelifu Mindfulness City is established as a special administrative region. As a special administrative region, it has its own government, own lawmaking process, own judiciary, own currency, own banks, spread across 2,600 kilometers of pristine forests, of old farms. So the city is being developed on the foundations of sustainability, mindfulness, spirituality, and the ideals of gross national happiness, but it is going to be economically and financially competitive. And the idea is to create a special administrative region. Incidentally, like one country, two systems. But incidentally, so far in the history of the world, no special administrative region has been designed as such. Special administrative regions like Hong Kong are the legacies of colonialism and had to be purposed to fit a certain objective. In our case, it is designed from a blank slate. This special administrative region is a big project.
And
it is for the future of Bhutan. So when you talk of long-term leadership, in my view, this is what it looks like. A huge undertaking for a small country, for a developing country, yet an undertaking that has to be done. Yeah. It takes courage in leadership to go on a journey which is not going to give immediate results, even midterm results. The results will be enjoyed by our children and their children. And His Majesty the King has outlined the royal vision and works day and night to ensure the success of this project. So that, in my view, looks like long-term leadership that you mentioned. Now to the question of what can banks do?
yeah, especially for the food transformation that is required, right? For this.
Banks can recognize the courage it takes to undertake such an important journey and be a part of the journey. Banks, if you are interested, whether it is on food resilience or climate action or sustainable living or private sector competitiveness, all of that is available and much more in the Gelifu Mindfulness City. And I think, well, I met President Kanda this morning and he was very supportive of the idea. Our immediate neighbor, India, with 1.4 billion people, is not only a market, but a market with whom we have a free trade agreement. We've always had a free trade agreement. And not just that, but the leadership, beginning with Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, has full support for the project. So with the ADB and other banks coming on board, I think we can accelerate success.
So talking about this balance that you explained and Bhutan's emphasis on agroecology and the landscape approach, right? How do you explain that to other countries in the region when they say this is too idealistic, it's not really possible, we really have to think about the economic gains, the immediate food security issues?
Firstly, the work begins at home. We have to explain to our farmers. We have to explain to ourselves, why can't we cut down trees of thousands of hectares and grow plantations? Why shouldn't we just cut down our trees and use it for heating? Why can't we just cut down our old forests and export the timber to our neighboring countries? The work begins at home, and our leaders, our kings have convinced all of us that forestry and the ecosystem, ecology matters for our survival. Now, when it comes to the rest of the world, I am yet to come across a world leader who will say that that balance is not important. Everybody acknowledges it. The question is whether you're willing to invest in these long-term investments. So that's a different matter. But I think everybody in this room and every world leader will acknowledge that the environment is important for resilient food systems.
Thank you. You spoke about the Bhutan Agro Sustain Finance Fund, right? And I mean, ADB recently launched the Glacier Bond as part of the green bonds. How do you see working together with banks, especially on these innovative financing mechanisms to bring money to systemic approaches to transform nature and food systems?
This was the only pitch I gave you, the Bhutan Agro Sustain Fund, and I hope some of you will take it seriously. This is the only pitch in my keynote address.
Pick that up.
I've come all the way to Manila to pitch the idea. So I hope that you will take it seriously. How can the bank be involved? Yeah, be a financing partner. How can any one of you, whether you're in the private sector, corporate sector, working in the banks, multinational, fora, it's very simple. Just invest in the fund and we will show you a success story.
So talking about the fund, we have many guests here from other developing member countries. Is that a recommendation that you give them to set up a transformative, integrated vision and then really put money behind this in a fund, special country funds for food system transformation?
Where?
Everywhere.
So let's begin with Bhutan. Yeah. Let's pilot it in Bhutan. Let's show everywhere, every country that this is something that works. But in all seriousness, we need to try out that era, this idea. We need to experiment to make sure that the fund is structured well and that the finance is used for its intended purposes. And we have proper, since we are in the bank, monitoring and evaluation mechanisms in place, reporting mechanisms in place. And then I think it's easier to sell that idea to other countries.
You said trust. We need trust to balance trade-offs. And you're known to speak openly about trade-offs.
Yeah.
But maybe thank you very much. Let's go to the first question. So we have a question from Zoom, and I invite everyone, please, to drop questions also in the app that you have. So here's a question, Honorable Prime Minister, how can we better promote market development and draw...
Hang on. It says, thank you for your talk. Read the whole thing.
I think of the valuable time we have. So yes.
This is very valuable.
So in the sense of mindfulness, we should be grateful. So thank you for your talk.
I'm just teasing you.
So the question is about how do we better promote market development and draw greater buy-in within traditional societies?
One thing, as we become more global, as international markets become more integrated, the discerning consumer looks for niche products.
Yeah.
They look for products with a story. They look for products with character. And that's where traditional societies come in. Whether it is an egg from a remote farm, or quinoa, or rice, or any other product, it is traditional societies, and most often small traditional societies, that offer unique stories. Wouldn't you like to eat an egg with a unique story rather than just any egg?
Well, I use the lemongrass from Bhutan every day, so yes, I do. So the unique stories, how do you explain that to your traditional communities, that their story matters?
Again, that's where leadership comes in. Mm-hmm. Community leadership comes in. Community leadership is very important. I just met the FAO DG, and he has launched the World Food Forum national chapters, and this is spearheaded by youth. in Bhutan, we launched our national chapter, and I do believe CSOs, in this case, this is a community-based organization, CSOs and CBOs play a very important role in explaining to the farmer why they should work even harder to maintain the traditional integrity of their product and to produce more, because they are the ones who can be a go-between between the markets and between the farmers, and they can explain to the farmers.
So the youth organizations in the
And not just youth. This is just an example.
Okay.
But it is ultimately leadership at the community level who can explain to the farmers. You don't need to explain to the farmers. Just pay them what they are worth. If you pay them for it, you don't need to explain anything. They will work hard.
Good. Thank you. So we have another question. Very insightful speech. Prime Minister Top Gay. Can you provide guidance? How can financing agencies restructure incentives so that protecting intact ecosystems rather than restoring damaged ones becomes the more attractive investment pathway? This is really a golden, this is the question.
So this question is coming in on Zoom.
It's coming in on Zoom.
Oh.
So there,
I wish I could meet this person. You
yeah,
see,
that's it. Maybe next time, please also add who you are when you ask the question so that we have more background and also your story of your question.
well, whoever asks this question, please give me your name and where you are writing from and what you do. Because this is one of the biggest problems in the world today. The incentive structure is corrupt. Bhutan, we have 70% of our country is under forest cover. And this is a deliberate choice. And that 70% of the forest cover is pristine forest. It's not new forest. It's not that we had cut our forest at one time, grew plantations, and now we have trees. No. And the 70% of the forest cover is not meant for sustainable timber business. This is old, ancient forest that we have protected. We don't get rewarded for this. But guess what? If we were to cut the trees, cut the forest, and plant some commercial trees, we would get rewarded for it. The incentive scheme is perverse. You are rewarded for bad behavior, not for good behavior. If you stay poor, you are rewarded by donor countries, development partners. The moment you use the development assistance well and you progress a little bit, but you're still vulnerable, you are left in the wild. The whole incentive system is perverse. And we're grateful that the Asian Development Bank is not like that.
That's good to hear. So we are not like that. Yeah, our incentives.
And I can tell you that.
Our incentives are right.
I can tell you that because the Asian Development Bank has been a development partner for many decades. And Bhutan has a good environmental track record and a good social development track record. We have graduated from the least developed country category, yet the ADB understands that this is when we need development partnership even more, until we become a high-income country, until we can stand firmly in our own feet. Asian Development Bank has recognized that good, hard work, honest work with the bank must be rewarded as we go into the future.
Thank you very much. This means a lot to us to be a trusted partner for you.
I wouldn't be here if you were not a trusted partner.
Thank you. Thank you. So being a trusted partner and in a trusted partnership, and where you said we have worked together on this, on food system transformation, on protecting nature, what role do you think can Bhutan play then regionally to be a model for, thank you very much, to be a model for other countries?
Like I mentioned in my speech, we can be a committed partner. But the last thing we would want to do is lecture to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we can do is share our stories. Our story is unique. And just like traditional societies, they will stand a chance with selling their produce in international markets with their stories. We hope that our story will also capture the imagination of other leaders and other communities so that they too do their part in protecting their natural capital and natural infrastructure.
So how do we bring then more attention to the importance of stewardship for these public goods? Because Bhutan, you protect the public goods of the world, right? You speak about the water towers, the forest. How can we bring more attention to this? This is not just Bhutan's assets, but it's really a public good.
One way is to take a long, hard look at GDP. And for the economists here to look at which parts of GDP undermine the public good that you're interested in, natural capital. That's one way. It's not been done. Another way which is being done and is to measure the natural assets. Yeah. So natural asset, see nature as natural capital and really measure it, value it, to see in actual dollar terms what is the value that that natural asset is contributing to the world and can continue to contribute in the future. This is being done in Bhutan, and I do believe a few other countries may be doing that. And then back to gross national happiness. We measure a GNH index every 5 years. There too, we try to measure a bit of where we stand in terms of environmental conservation. So a few other leaders are interested in these areas. So this is where more communities can engage in efforts to take their natural capital more seriously. Bhutan was the first carbon negative country, and like I mentioned, we are heavily negative. We sequester 5 times more than we emit. Panama is carbon negative, Suriname is carbon negative, Guyana is carbon negative, Madagascar is carbon negative. So there are a few other countries. And we formed a coalition called G0. Panama, Suriname, Madagascar, and Bhutan. G0. And the idea is to tell the world that you have a group of countries that are already negative. Because we keep pushing for countries to aspire to be carbon negative and carbon neutral. To aspire. And when a country says, in the next 10 years, we are going to be carbon neutral, everybody applauds them. When the country says, forget 10 years, by 2050, which is 25 years down the line, we are going to be carbon neutral. The world applauds these countries. But countries that are already carbon neutral receive no acknowledgement. Forget about incentives. That the earlier question talked about. And so this is a platform to tell the world, look, if you become carbon neutral, you are at least recognized. Even if you don't get any other monetary incentive, at least you are recognized. And to encourage other countries that are approaching carbon neutrality to fast track their systems, their work, so that they become carbon neutral also.
Thank you. I would like to highlight that ADB has also published a report last year on investing in nature with our economists to support actually this, promoting investing in nature and the food system transformation in general, linking environment with nature. How are this knowledge work that the development banks provide? How are they helping governments to invest better, to take systemic approaches, to maybe even integrate certain agencies to work better together?
I can't speak for other governments. I can speak for my own. And our experts in the government, they normally summarize the report, give me the important points, and based on the important points, I try to link with our development priorities where our development priorities are, and try to look for an immediate match.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And where there is an immediate match, I know that I can leverage on that immediate match to foster partnerships. And I say that our experts in the civil service, they will percolate the report to its essence, because your reports are big and they're very intimidating. So, so number one is look for common focuses, yeah, and use that to leverage on a common agenda to enhance our partnership. Number one. Number two, look for the bank's priority areas that may not be reflected as priority areas in our own planning cycle, and see whether perhaps we may have missed something. Yeah, and that it could be important. I mean, reassess our own planning framework to look at the bank's priorities. It may be of value, it may not be of value, but our job is to look at it. The third is look at what our big priorities are that are not caught in the bank's priority list. Yeah, and then to convince the bank that this may not be in your priority list. This may not be one of your economist's assessments, but we think it's important, so maybe we can work together.
Thank you very much. So this was interesting about shared agenda setting. Let's go back to the Zoom question. So this is a question from Manoj Kumar. And his question is, what are your key messages to today's global leaders on being adaptive to a fast-changing world and continue balancing economic growth as well as people's happiness?
Well, if you're a leader, this is what you have signed up for. And if you cannot deliver, then you should let somebody else who can deliver do the job. This is a very simple, actually it's very simple. This is why we have leaders, to take on this very important world, to take on this very important work of balancing economic growth and people's happiness. And today, in a fast-changing world, such leaders are required to do a lot more.
Yes, thank you.
Every leader knows this, so I don't have to say anything about this.
Yeah. So, talking about leadership and the trade-offs. So taking a food system transformation approach, right, where you connect upstream nature, protection, conservation, with, of course, access to markets and technology adoption. What are the trade-offs in such an approach?
I don't consider them as trade-offs. They're investments. So in a private company, when you invest in human capital, when you train your employees, you don't consider it a trade-off, right? It's an investment. And similarly in the world, yeah, when we invest in climate action, when we invest in the environment, the resilience of the environment, don't consider it a trade-off. It's an investment for the future. And the moment you think of it as a trade-off, then you have a choice. And you take the easy way out all the time. It's a critical investment.
Thank you very much. So it's not really a trade-off. We shouldn't speak about trade-off. We should talk about possibilities.
Investment in an integrated system.
Yeah. Yes. So
the moment you say trade-off, then you no longer accept that it is a holistic package and that everything you must invest in all parts of that package.
Thank you. So the next question is from Justin Galang, and she's asking, how important do you think youth participation in stewarding food systems, environment, and natural resources, how important is that? And how do you encourage youth in participating in policy and decision making?
Youth are important because they are our future. If our youth do not take part in the food systems, we will not have food in our plates. And if the youth do not take part in the food systems now, in the future, who's going to drive the food systems? AI, for all its brilliance, is not going to cultivate food for us.
So that's an interesting discussion, right? How you use technology advancements in the economy, but still ensure the basic needs are actually met in agriculture. So let's see. Do we have another question? Maybe also from. Do we have any from the
They're
audience?
tired.
No.
And
Are
we
you?
should
Are
let
you
them
tired?
go now. Now we should let them go.
We have one question. Oh, this is our Vice President, HK, for Administrative Corporate Services. If I could please invite you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Prime Minister, what an inspirational speech. Thank you so much, and the talk has been excellent. My question is around your gross national happiness, and you talked extensively about balance. But we also know that many developing countries believe that economic development is what will ultimately lift people from poverty and enhance their well-being. So I wanted to just ask you a little bit more about whether Bhutan's approach is quite different to this more traditional approach that we have around GDP being as good a proxy as anything else to achieve well-being of our citizens.
Thank you, VP. If GDP enhances the well-being of people, it has done its job. It's done its job. Why GDP? People do not ask that fundamental question often enough. Why are we obsessed with the economy and economic growth and stock markets and the GDP? Why are we obsessed? We do not ask ourselves this question often enough. It must serve a purpose. A big economy by itself, of itself, is of no use if the people do not enjoy well-being and happiness. So if GDP can provide well-being, you're on the right track. But our own experiences, we can get distracted. Now, there is a misunderstanding when we talk of gross national happiness. There's a general misunderstanding that we believe that GDP is not important. No, GDP is important. Economic growth is important. Material growth is important, especially in this day and age. And therefore, economic growth must be pursued, but that must be balanced with other factors that provide well-being of our people, which is social progress, so health, education, welfare systems, etc., which is cultural preservation. For us as a small country, our culture and our spirituality is very important, which is balancing it with environmental conservation, which we talked about, and balancing it with good governance. And just incidentally, when I say good governance, Bhutan is the only country in history and in the world where democracy had to be actually forced upon us, imposed by our king, not external forces, not through revolution and bloodshed, but the king imposed democracy on us, on a reluctant population. That is GNH. All of this is important for happiness and well-being, or so we believe. Yeah. So now, is GDP important? Is GDP unimportant? No, GDP is important. Yeah. But it must be balanced with the other important parts of what make life, what promotes well-being and happiness of our people. And then back to where I started. If GDP is providing well-being of our people, of any people, they've found a secret sauce and they should focus on it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we are coming to an end of the conversation. We have one more question here I personally think it's a bit too technical and detailed, but
You mean it's from the bank?
it's from the legal part of the bank, yeah. From
See, it's from the
Cecile
bank.
Young.
Yeah, let me read it. Really inspiring. Thanks, Prime Minister. Okay. At an appropriate juncture of this conversation, could you dive a bit into the fundraising model, investment model, governance structure? And 2, collaboration with private sectors of these aspects. Could you also share details of the legal framework of the fund? Is it different from the prior Bhutan Environmental Trust Fund? Thank you, Cecile. Thank you.
They
Where's
have
Cecile?
very high expectations on your technical background. So,
Cecile, these are very important questions. And I will send the director of the Bhutan Agro Sustain Fund to meet you. Not on Zoom, in person. And so we can discuss all of this. This is a joint initiative between ADB and Bhutan. Ministry of Agriculture, sorry, see, I want ADB involved. It's a joint initiative between the Food and Agriculture Organization and Bhutan. The director of Department of Agriculture is here, by the way. Please stand up. Yeah. So this is a director, and he can explain more. But more importantly, I think you can have a trilateral, ADB, FAO, and Bhutan. Since you are interested, Cecile.
thank you very much. We can see your background as an administrator in government and your political expertise in navigating the right answer.
I don't know.
No, you did it very well. Thank you. So we have one more question, please, for our director.
Last question.
This is the last question. Yeah. We need to think of our well-being, right? Yeah. Very last question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prime Minister, and a very welcome to ADB. I'm from the agriculture sector, so I know this Agri Sustain Fund for last 2 months, and we are just scratching our head how to support. But we definitely going to we're going to support. Yeah. So in order to support, as well as like food system transformation, support Bhutan, my question is role of SOE, state-owned enterprises. As I learn about your economy, I'm learning the importance of these state-owned enterprises. And what's your view in terms of role of these state-owned enterprises in food systems? Because it can sometimes cry out private sector. So how to balance it? And the further question is, what's your view on foreign direct investment? Thank you.
Thank you. When you drop your mic, it means you're done speaking. So you said ADB wants to be involved in the Bhutan Agro Sustain Fund.
This is a good ending.
You should have stopped there. But thank you very much. The role of thank you for your interest in thinking about how to be involved. I'm very, very grateful that you are considering the Bhutan Agro Sustain Fund as a vehicle to promote climate resilient agriculture in Bhutan. ADB and Bhutan, we do a lot of work in climate resilient projects. Yeah, from infrastructure to agriculture to climate action. So we are very grateful. Now, state-owned enterprises in Bhutan, in agriculture especially, they are there precisely because we don't have enough private players at scale. We have small land holdings and small farmers, but we don't have aggregators. Yeah, and right now we have 3 main SOEs: the Food Corporation of Bhutan, the Bhutan Livestock Development Corporation, and the Farm Machinery Corporation Limited. So we need them to be involved right now to support the farmers. And where and when there are private sector involvement, especially from our youth, whether individually or collaboratively as a group, these SOEs are required to support them, not as competition, not to see them as competition, but to support them so that they will make the existence of the SOEs redundant. So that is the whole idea. But right now, when we talk about from food systems and markets, it's very difficult for our farmers because we do not have aggregators that the service that our SOEs provide. FDI is going to be essential for technology, for capital, for expertise, for markets. And we welcome FDI. Remember, when I talk about, I didn't go into details. Even when walking here, I saw some technologies on display, hydroponics and that use less and less water. Why? Because water is a critical issue. So we have a choice. We can learn to use less water, or we can protect the water that we have.
Both.
And obviously we can do both. This is my message.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Prime Minister. We learned a lot from you, how to balance, how to look at trade-offs, how to look at incentives, and how to use food system transformation as a way to bring different sectors together and to lead differently for the future generations. So we would like to invite now, please, our Vice President for Markets, Vice President Bagav, to give final remarks and also hand over, I think, a plaque of recognition for you. I will leave the stage now. Okay, thank you.
His Excellency Prime Minister Tobgay, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. As we conclude this Eminent Speakers Forum, let me express our sincere appreciation to His Excellency Prime Minister Tobgay. Thank you for your speech, Prime Minister, and for sharing such thoughtful and inspiring reflections with us today. Bhutan's experience carries lessons far beyond its borders. Bhutan is one of the few carbon negative countries in the world, as Prime Minister explained, and I'm sure most of us knew, while maintaining more than 70% forest cover under its constitutional safeguard of at least 60%. But Bhutan's lessons go well beyond carbon. Guided by gross national happiness, it has shown that nature is not separate from development, but a key part of its foundation. Today's message is clear. Food security, water resilience, climate action, and nature protection cannot be treated separately. They are deeply connected, and that reality places food systems at a turning point. The next transformation must do more than raise outputs. It must protect ecosystems, secure water, reduce emissions, improve diets, and create livelihoods that are stronger, fairer, and more sustainable. That is where ADB must step forward. This is not just a subject for discussion, it is a call to lead. Our $40 billion commitment to food system transformation through 2030 reflects this shift in ambition. We are moving beyond isolated interventions towards a more connected approach across water, energy, ecosystems, logistics, finance, and nutrition. This includes low-carbon, water-smart rice systems, glacier-to-farms approaches, sources to sea river basin investments, mountains to delta frameworks, nutrition-focused investments, and digital and AI-enabled solutions that can strengthen resilience, improve productivity, and make investments viable. ADB is also well placed to connect public policy with private investments, Your Excellency, and to bring sovereign and non-sovereign operations together to help countries move from ideas to implementation. This is the real test before us. The transformation that we seek will depend on stronger alignment across governments, farmers, businesses, financial institutions, scientists, and development partners, so that shared ambition translates into practical action and lasting results. Prime Minister, Bhutan's leadership continues to inspire global conversations on sustainable development and climate action. We are grateful for your willingness to share Bhutan's experiences and perspectives with us today. On behalf of the Asian Development Bank, thank you once again for this enriching dialogue. We look forward to deepening our partnership with Bhutan and with all our partners in advancing a more resilient, nature-positive, and food-secure future for Asia and the Pacific. Allow me to close in the spirit of Bhutan, Kadin Chela Tashi Dilak.